Please sit next to me. Hey everyone. Hi, welcome. It's Naomi Wolf and it's DailyClout, and we've got a special guest tonight. Disclosure, my husband. It's Stryker Pierce's CEO, Investigator, Brian Oshea. Welcome, darling. So the reason I asked Brian to join us and to join our community tonight here from broadcasting from the South Bronx is that many of you rightly have responded to some initial suggestions he shared, specifically when it came to documenting the crisis in Australia, about how citizens can be investigators. And of course, as you know, at DailyClout, we really believe in, here, darling, come a little closer to me. We really believe in transparency and in empowering people to not be dependent on journalists and government officials and leaders, and to have the power to do things for themselves. And one of the things that's really important to be able to do, I believe in teaching everyone to be a journalist, and Brian believes in teaching everyone who wants to be an investigator. So welcome, and thank you for being here.
And thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So why don't you start out, because a lot of people are not that familiar with you, why don't you start out with a quick bio and say who you are and how you came to this work?
Well, my name is Brian Oshea. I'm a licensed private investigator in the United States. And I came to this work, I joined the military a long time ago, mainly because I was a big Tom Clancy fan. And I really wanted to do that cool stuff that Jack Ryan does. I went into it, I really enjoyed the military. I was in military intelligence for about 11 years, mainly with special forces units. And I decided to get out, just because it was time to get out when I got out. And I did a lot of different intelligence work around the government in the United States, and went into some corporate intelligence jobs. When I looked around, I realized that there were so many great skill sets that we were learning, and a lot of the stuff I was producing, for whatever reason, I really never knew who that was helping. Sure, it was helping somebody, but I hope it was. But I never really knew who it was helping. And I really started thinking, maybe I can make a firm where we bring these skill sets and make them available to other people. That's when we started Stryker Pierce Investigations to do that very thing.
I really liked when you said to me once early on when I first knew you, that you realized at a certain point that you were liking your targets better than your employers.
Happens a lot.
Yeah.
Happens a lot. Not on the current case, but yes.
Right. And I should disclose too that Brian and I met because I was being harassed and issued threats online, and I needed security. And so we met in a professional capacity, and we were very professional for quite a long time.
Very professional.
So having said that, and what's a case that you're working on just now to give people a sense of the kind of work that you do?
Great case. It's for a Native American client. In this particular case, we were dealing with a lot of issues, from people moving land borders to people going on to this sovereign territory illegally, and to even other companies trying to take advantage of the sovereign client to defraud them, steal their secrets, and put them out of business for whatever reason.
So the reason we're here, thank you. So the reason we're here specifically is, let's just talk about Australia. I mean, we have viewers all over the world. Thank you, DailyClout community, growing and growing by leaps and bounds. But very specifically, Australia is a test case I want to use tonight to give everyone around the world some tips from Brian about how to do basic citizen investigations. And we realized when we were getting I was getting so many questions online about, women's safety and protection and security, about activist safety and protection and security, that there are so many questions that if you guys want, we're going to just stick with citizen investigations tonight, and we'll bring Brian back another time for follow-up seminars or webinars or whatever this is, conversations about those other issues. So let's start with why I chose Australia, and let's give a test case, an example. So in Victoria, a horrible thing happened about a week or two ago. There was a stand of eucalyptus trees on some private property. A company logged the eucalyptus trees, apparently lawfully, they claim, and then they left, having allegedly complied with keeping the koalas safe. Koalas they're not yet listed as endangered species, but they are endangered. They could be extinct by 2050. They're enchanting creatures. They're precious creatures. They're part of like the world's heritage, I believe. And so horrifyingly to many people in Australia and around the world, the private owner of this land came in and logged a stand of, they're called blue gum trees. In America, we call them eucalyptus trees, logged them with the kangaroos in the branches. And these little creatures, they were injured, they were killed, like 150 or 160 of them were injured or killed as the trees were brought down and just like bulldozed. And so I was very impressed because the whole thing went viral because a citizen journalist, a woman who didn't have any particular investigative background, went and filmed this. And social media is so miraculous that she put the call out. Everyone was horrified, and it became a national and I hope a global story.
I saw that video, and that was amazing.
It's
Definitely
unforgettable,
amazing, yeah.
Right? So let's start with that as a test case. Say you're going to investigate, not just in Australia, but around the world, a crime committed on public land or a crime committed on private land or some sort of environmental crime, right? So we're going to talk about like citizen investigations 101. What is an investigation? Super briefly.
Okay, an investigation is trying to get answers to the questions you have about literally anything. I mean, that is the easiest way to describe it.
That's good. And so how do you start?
Well, the first thing you need to start with is you need a question. Like, what are you trying to answer? We call these key intelligence topics, very much like an outline. In this particular case, who's killing the koalas? And then subtopics of that, which we call key intelligence questions, would be, did someone hire them? Why are they doing it? Go through the who, what's, where's, why's, and how's, and just kind of, but do it in the form of a question. Then your goal with the investigation is to answer those questions.
So I've heard you say in the past that when you're starting an investigation, you follow a method of collect, sort, and analyze. Can you explain what that is, please?
Yes, that's an important, great question. Collecting, the very first thing you have to do after you have your questions, after you decide, okay, I'm trying to answer these questions, well, now you have to get information. And it's very common for people to start Googling and analyzing everything they're collecting. I teach my people, and we exercise the collect, sort, and analyze principle, much in the way I was trained. So put on the vacuum, collect everything you can, even if you're not sure if it's pertinent, just collect it all, put it in a separate folder, do that until you get tired of it. Then the next step of that would be, before you even analyze it, to see if it's pertinent, sort it. You want to sort it by first in a chronological order from most recent to the most past. Once you've done that, start subsorting it into type of target. So for instance, you might have a bunch of results from Google, let's say, that are construction companies doing bad things. Another one that is roving gangs doing bad things. So you make separate piles, keeping them in order, companies, gangs, that sort of thing. And you just keep subsorting until you have a bunch of biteable pieces.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then
Yeah, go ahead.
Then you can begin analyzing. You will miss so much if you just stay on every single thing, and that's how you avoid rabbit holes, is by doing the collect, sort, and then analyze. That's when you analyze it at the end.
So that is awesome. And so I know that you have access to, or you use a lot of databases. So some of them I know are proprietary to PIs who are licensed, but what are public databases that everyone watching this can use if they're trying to find out who killed the koalas, or a comparable investigation that is relevant to their own community or their own life?
There's lots of them. And though I'm not that familiar with the Australian databases available, the best thing to look at is you start by searching for the .govs.
Let's talk about America then.
Okay, let's talk about America. Within America, we have public databases for businesses. We have public databases for finding people, for finding their addresses, the yellow pages. If you don't want to pay big prices, and some databases you do need a license for, just start with your normal real estate websites are great databases to find out like who's around an area, who's associated with it.
So if there's been, say, a koala massacre in your neighborhood or some squirrel massacre in an American neighborhood, you would go on to Zillow or go on to Google Maps and take a look at who owns that property, right?
Especially, I'm glad you mentioned Google Maps. Yes, I would start with, first of all, who could have seen it? Someone saw something. And that's, you want to get those people and put them in your sorted pile.
How would you find possible witnesses to the koala massacre?
I would just start with anyone that has a line of sight to the massacre. So for instance, line of sight being a direct line with no obstructions. And start there. And another topic we'll be getting into how to conduct a field interview, we won't talk about that tonight. But the other thing as well, and I'm glad you mentioned Google Maps and thinking about Google Earth. Great resource. And what I always like to do with Google Earth, there's a go back in time thing that I'll get into on another, where you can actually pull up the area and there's a little clock at the top and you can actually go back to the last images that were snapped. These satellite snap images.
You can see changes.
You can see changes, as they call it, going back in time on Google Earth.
That's fantastic. So so this is all stuff you do at your desk. I've seen you sit for hours and drill down. But at a certain point, you decide to go into the field, or these people who are watching are going to think, well, I have enough. I know the neighbors. I've seen who owns the land. I know who has line of sight of the koala massacre. Now I'm going to go into the field and get some evidence. How do you decide when it's time to go into the field?
Really, you decide when it's time to go into the field when you have something called an intelligence gap. You've done all you can on doing research, but there's just a question you cannot answer. And sometimes it's as simple as, what is here? I can't see it on, that's when you might decide to go to the field. Or who goes here?
What is the field?
Oh,
it's the world.
It's a big field surrounded by, no, it's a field is anytime, we call the field anytime when you leave the safety of your desk.
Gotcha.
That's the field. It could be the city, the woods.
Okay, so say you decide to go in the field. What do you wear? Like, I've seen you go out and go basically undercover as an investigator, and it's hilarious. I mean, you have all kinds of different things you do. You change your appearance. You rent different cars.
Right.
But how would a citizen investigator, when they go into the field, what should they wear in order to not get in trouble, to not get identified, and let me just jump in here as a journalist. It's actually unethical for a journalist to go undercover in the way that it's ethical for a citizen investigator to go undercover. And I know that's a bit of a complicated issue right now, because there is also such thing as really important undercover investigative journalism. But in general, Brian can do things ethically in his profession that I cannot ethically do in my profession. It would be wrong of me to go pretend to be a factory worker to get footage of, abuses in a factory. I need to disclose that I'm a journalist. Brian does not have those constraints. He can go undercover. And I firmly feel like the government is spying on us. Corporations are spying on us. I firmly feel that, although I believe in people not being surveilled by government and corporations, I sort of feel like we're in a time when citizens need to be empowered to go spy on corporations or go spy on the government in an ethical and not using classified information and free speech protected way to gather information, even if they go, I don't want to say surreptitiously, but without broadcasting that they're trying to get information, for instance, on who killed the koalas. So say a citizen goes into the field. What should he or she wear in this case?
What should they wear? Well, really quickly, the first thing they should do before they go to the field is what they call intelligence preparation of the battlefield. Looking on Google, checking out the area. This goes into what you wear. Go to Google Images for that area. Go to some cityscapes, just some recent news, and see what people are wearing. That's the key thing.
So you blend in.
You want to blend in, even when you not only want to blend in, you want to have something to support your alibi, which we'll get into a little later, and make sure whatever you wear is layered. So don't wear one outfit or like a jumpsuit. You want to wear, something like a t-shirt with a shirt over it, depending on the area.
Why?
So you can change your appearance.
So how do you change your appearance? That was one of my questions.
Well, the biggest way to change your appearance, and one thing I will say, I don't really disguise myself so much. I alter my image. I alter my appearance.
A lot of people are going to be interested in this. This goes like to our 8-year-old dreams of being Harriet the Spy. How do you alter your appearance? Like I've literally never seen you like wear makeup or, you just subtly alter your appearance and it seems to work for you. So how do you do that?
It's everything from, a pair of eyeglasses.
Put them on and show the difference.
These are real, by the way. And, in this case here, you see my hair is kind of spiked up. And so, I'll probably lay that down. I'll comb it flat. You did see me that one time when I called you from Vegas and I looked like someone from another country.
It's alarming. He gets on the phone and I'm like, or on Skype and he's in kind of disguise and I'm like, I would never date that guy.
But then there's other things.
Change back. So
the other things you can do to subtly change your appearance. A lot of this is psychology. The brain will categorize the person they see in a memory and that will stay there. Mm-hmm. So I have a person out in the field right now and he's implied the limp. This is part of our 3 Ls.
It's really politically incorrect.
The limp?
Yes.
He's
changed his gait.
He's changed his gait. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry if I offended anyone. Didn't mean it. I'm a disabled veteran. But what he did is he adopted a different gait, thank you, and a different posture. So he went from standing straight up to kind of slouching over and having a different gait. And he had gone back to that same area just 2 weeks ago. They didn't even recognize him.
And so what's an example of a small change you would make that would keep people from identifying you or paying attention to you if you're trying to blend in or not be detected?
The biggest giveaway is the gait.
Okay, so you change your gait.
The gait and the hair. That is the biggest giveaway.
So how would you change your hair without actually dyeing your hair?
It depends on how much hair you have.
I've seen you spray like gray in your hair.
Yeah, no, I have sprayed additional gray in my hair. I've done blonde. It's easily explained away. I was feeling like being blonde that day, if anyone asks. But just if you're a man, the way you part it. If you're a woman, if you don't normally tease it up, tease it up. Okay. Do something opposite of what you'd normally do, but not so crazy that you attract too much attention.
Okay, so you're in your whatever, you're dressed to blend
mm-hmm.
in. You always say rent a car that's exactly like the cars that other people are driving in that community, right?
Gosh, I wish I had a picture of this. I'll post a picture of this.
So you just totally want to blend in. So there you are passing the koala massacre site.
Wait, do you want me to explain the cars?
Sure, but I think we kind of did. But go ahead.
Really quickly. Yeah. It's funny because I go to an area where for some reason everyone drives white trucks, normally white Dodge Rams. So when I go to I will go rental car to rental car company until I get a white Dodge Ram. And I parked in my hotel the other day. A colleague didn't believe me. I pointed my camera around and every single car and truck was white.
Wow. So blend in with your car. So say people are investigating in the field. Mm-hmm. They're walking past the koala massacre site, but now it's kind of dangerous. And I'm thinking now about the times I've been reporting in dangerous situations, and it gets scary. So how would you stay safe in the field? What advice do you want to give people so that we don't get calls a week from now and say, Brian, I took your advice and I'm under arrest, or Brian, I took your advice and I got beaten up by the thugs hired by this, corporation. How do you stay safe? Safe for men and for women,
mm-hmm.
or
for
just big people
women,
or little people if you don't want to do
it. Yeah, it's really gender non-specific. Always bring a buddy, as we used to say in the military. Bring someone with you if you can. If you're going to go out alone, which I don't recommend unless you're a professional, even when I go out alone, I'm being tracked. I have lots of apps that track my phone. I use those little tiles. I keep one of those on me.
Someone don't know what tiles
are. A tile is, they sell these, most of the stuff I get to is over the counter. So it's one of my many cases. And then a tile.
The gear. There are a lot of people who are just waiting for the gear. I'm sure. Hold it up, baby. Hold it up. It's a reveal. I'll help you.
Thank you. So the tile is, I can't find it right now, but here's an example. Like this is a GPS tracker. I keep that on my vehicle all the time. This is real-time tracking. This lasts for about 5 days and I recharge it every night. The tile is something you can buy at Best Buy for $30. You activate it and it uses crowdsourced. People Bluetooth will ping off your tile and it'll tell people where it is. This is not that much more expensive. This is about $70. This has a monthly subscription. The tile does not, but this will do real-time tracking, which a GPS for Australia, probably better because the population isn't as densely packed together. So crowdsourcing maybe is not a good idea.
So we're talking about safety. So people bring one of these when they go into the field. They bring a buddy so that if they get abducted, God forbid, or their car breaks down, or they get injured, people know where they are.
They know where they are,
and someone's with them, and that's more intimidating. All right, what else can you say about safety in the field? Oh, what about? Let's go through your gadgets quickly.
Okay,
are there any
and
relevant
a lot of them go to safety as well.
Just hold them up, honey.
I will. So this is one of the many cases I bring. I'm going to put it down so I don't drop it as I pull gear out. I really like having a lot of cameras. This is called an SJ cam. It's kind of like a GoPro. So if you use GoPro, it's very similar. The difference is this is 4K. I think it's just as good, way cheaper. I've got 15 of these. These are great. Internal gimbal, which stabilizes a picture. There's hookups where you can make these a dash cam. Put it in your little case, make a dash cam, put it in the weatherproof case. So you can
drive past the koala site and your dash cam is doing all of the recording.
Exactly. And then one thing I do for safety, if I see someone coming up and I think there might be trouble, live stream it.
Okay.
Immediately live stream it. Put your phone in your pocket, make sure it's live streaming, let the world know who you're talking to. If they're innocent, okay.
Could you say a little more about that? Because I know a lot of times you get video and people are unaware of it because you just turn on your phone, put it in your pocket. And so if you go to talk to the people who are killing the koalas and you don't want them to know you're videotaping them,
right?
I can't do it because I'm a journalist, but you can as citizen investigators. You would put the phone right in your jacket pocket, and Brian will show you how, or in your shirt pocket.
So keep all your old phones first of all, because the cameras always work. For the live streaming, use your active phone. Make sure it's on Do Not Disturb. You don't want a call coming through and disrupting the feed. And if you have a pocket, which this doesn't, but I usually just put it right there. Make sure you practice before you go out so you know it's about lens awareness. You want to know where your lens is going. And just make sure if you're shorter, that you put a little tissue down in there to make sure this angles up a little so you're going to get their faces. And Facebook, YouTube, whatever you want to live stream it, or get someone on FaceTime or a similar type of app.
So is it legal to record a person if he or she does not know he or she is being recorded, like video recording?
It depends on the area. It really does. However, this is what I'll tell people. If you feel you're in danger and you're breaking out all the stops, as we say, to keep yourself safe, I say go with your safety first. You could deal with the law later, but if someone's going to come up and you want to identify them, some podcast called it the if I go missing type of actions. Be ready to get all the evidence you can. Don't really think too much if your life is in danger about which law you might be breaking or who you might offend. Keep yourself safe first.
Okay, so it's always important to err on the side of self-protection. And the other thing is, this came up a lot when I called Angus Taylor and Scott Morrison. In Australia, it is not legal to record your member of parliament or a head of state or your elected representative on the phone. In America, it's perfectly legal, depending on the state. And so let's say something to American citizen investigators or Australian. Say you're phoning an elected official, you're phoning the MP who's responsible for the koalas or for the squirrel massacre in the United States. Can I record that person?
So I will not say whether you can or cannot. That is a personal choice, and that's not going to keep myself out of trouble. What I do is I record everything, because really at the end of the day, unless it's going to court or you're planning on disseminating it, really no one's going to know you recorded it, but you do have some insurance. It's also good to record even if you don't plan on doing anything with it, so you can go back afterwards and dictate. We record everything because you usually only catch the first and last parts of any conversation. You'll be amazed what you see if you record, like with a sustained duration of time, what you may have missed.
So I'm just going to jump in with a little caution there. In America, there are states that are one-party state and two-party states, as you've explained to me. And so that's why, for instance, when I was in Connecticut wanting to record the Yale police telling me why they couldn't file a police report on my abuser, Harold Bloom, may he rest in peace, I couldn't record it if they didn't consent to my recording it. But there are states where only one person has to consent, and that's you, and you don't have to tell them, and it's perfectly legal. So check the law, and you can use You can use legislative databases to check the law and recording state by state.
Absolutely.
All right. So when you're out in the field, a couple of final questions. Yes.
Can I mention one thing about your call?
Anything you want.
So a lot of questions came up about the call.
You mean the Angus Taylor call?
Yes. And I was very proud of her for recording it. Let me just say that right away. But in the case of that case there, because you were calling overseas, it falls under federal law, which does have that big one-party loophole. So if there's any lingering doubt, if it was legal, sure it was legal.
And this brings up what I love about international journalism and networks of international investigators, international journalists. We can help each other. Absolutely. If something isn't legal in your country, I can do it in my country, and vice versa, as long as we're not disseminating classified information, which I never would do. All right. So when you're in the field also, what about tinted windows? Oh, yeah.
And I always like to rent and try to get like an eco-friendly version if you can, depends on your area and availability. But I always try to rent a car that's an SUV. Even those little tiny SUVs that don't even look like SUVs, I think should look. They kind of look like electric razors. But anyways, they all come with tinted windows as standard.
And that's good because you can film and they can't see you filming.
Yeah, and the key thing with filming is not so much that you're doing anything illegal most times, but you want to capture people doing the natural thing they'd be doing if they were unaware that you were recording. What that allows you to do, like with one of these, I'll put one of these in the back window right on the tint, and it's sitting there doing a profile of the person I'm talking to. They don't even know they're being recorded.
And so say you get busted and you're with your friend and you're videotaping the koala massacre, people massacring koalas, and you get identified. You would say made, or your colleagues would say made.
We don't say you got made, but we do make fun of people that say I got made.
Okay. Well, say you get identified and it's scary. How do you tell if you're under surveillance, and how do you stay safe if someone aggresses against you?
Well, the first thing you do.
Speak as if the investigator is a woman right now, because I've been in situations a lot of women feel like we're smaller, they're big, it's scary, we're not armed. What do you do?
Well, that's easy. If as long as you outrun your male partner, you're good. That's a joke. So if danger comes. So anyways, what you do to stay safe is we call it situational awareness. Always be looking around. There's a tendency with these cameras to really focus so much on what's through the lens. But when you're on the lens, you want to constantly be looking around. And this isn't just other people that can hurt you. It's Australia, it's the United States. We have big animals in these countries. One of the biggest dangers to a lot of people are dogs, animals, wildlife. I had to give up an investigation because there was a giant grizzly bear and I was stupidly, munching on a steak outside. Those are the things you got to think about as well.
So, and you've always talked about listening to your gut, and again, especially for women,
yes, absolutely.
If you talk about not being afraid to cause a scene, not being afraid to yell, not be. So, you've always said if you feel, if you have a gut feeling that something's not safe, get out of there, right?
Absolutely. And the reason why this is because I'm definitely not a scientist at all, but in studying people and studying situations after over 4,000 cases now, you listen to your gut because there's a change in the environment. It could be the smell, something your nostrils are picking up that you don't realize they're picking up, some change in the shadows, some change in, just the sounds around you. Your subconscious is picking it up and it's signaling to your stomach. The butterflies are actually your stomach getting ready to purge your stomach for flight or fight. So listen to it. Even if, don't worry about like, oh, they're going to think I'm weak. They're going to think I'm wimpy if I leave and I go back with nothing. Safety is always first. You can always go back to fight another day as long as you're alive.
And lastly, can you, before we wrap up with showing some gadgets, can you give some safety tips? I appreciated this for if you're staying in a hotel.
Oh, yes. So if you're staying in a hotel for surveillance or any other reason, and that will segue well into the safety tips. There's a lot
of thumbs ups. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. There's a lot of safety tips you want to think about. For instance, I always try to book the hotel at the hotel because let's say someone hacks your account, then they're going to know where you're staying days in advance. Surveillance is not is not easy to set up, even for the government. It takes time, resources, planning, legal loopholes. So I always go right to the hotel. The other reason why you want to book at the hotel is because they can change your room easily. If you go through a third-party site, changing your room to one above, if it's different class, it's crazy.
And then once you're in there, just to be physically safe.
Yeah, what you want to do to be physically safe, go to your local hardware store, buy like one of those little wedges, okay? Always put that in the door. You want to put some sort of a noisemaker on the latch. Most hotels have latch handles. Well, there are tools where you can reach right under there if you're a bad guy or bad girl and pull down the handle and you're in the hotel room.
That's so scary.
And then if you're in a foreign country or a foreign place you don't feel safe in, but there's a lot of people there, if it's after the cleaning crews come through, do not put your do not disturb sign.
Why?
Because if someone's looking for you or they're looking for anyone to rob or anything, the first rooms they hit are the ones that have do not disturb signs on them.
Okay, gotcha. So we've gone into the field. We know how to change our appearance. We know how to start with researching databases. We've gone in there. We've gotten our video footage of the dead koalas. We've gotten our video footage close up of the logo on the machinery of the bad people who are plowing up the koalas. We've evaded them when they've gotten aggressive. We've gone back to our hotel room and put a wedge in the door. We've escaped them. Our friends have tracked us while we've gone into that. What do we do with that data now that we've got it? And then wrap up, please, with showing some cool gear. Okay. Because I know a lot of people have sat through the chat about the more arcane things to get.
Okay, so you go back full circle. You go back to your sorting, and then with the stuff you already have, you just start answering those questions, and you answer them with citations. You want to say, this guy is killing koalas, or this person's killing koalas based on this, and try to have a citation. And by citation, I don't mean a tweet. I mean a real citation, whether it's a scholarly website.
What's a primary source? What's a solid source? Quickly.
Yeah, like a primary source. Like you can like talking to someone who was there. That's a primary source.
And you can also now cite your own video and your own photographs, right?
Yeah.
In your own account, eyewitness account. Yeah. Journalistically as well as investigatively, an eyewitness account is a real thing. And if you've got a buddy there and the buddy saw the same thing, journalistically that's confirmed. If you have two independent sources who can say, we were there, we saw, bullying animals corporation plow down the koalas, and we have these pictures and we have these video, then I'm going to say as a journalist, which is why I brought Brian onto the set and why I want you guys to take these skills and run with them. You can send that now to any journalist, and that is a news story, and that's verified, and it gives them something to report from. And is there anything else you want to say about what you do with that data once you've
I mean, I will say try to get the photos. If you have the photos, try to make them date time stamped. If you can't do that, save the metadata. That's when you click on file and click on info, and it has just save all that, even if you don't know what it is.
Okay, quickly,
but can I say one thing really quick?
What would you like to say?
Just so you know, the difference is in a court of law, anything the investigator says, even with an investigator witness, would actually be hearsay. And so you have to have the photos, and then if I go to court, I have to say what's on the photo for it to be real evidence, just so you know the difference.
Awesome. Do you want to show people some cool gear? I believe you have a recording pen.
Okay, so recording pen, yes, which is actually charging. Is charged. So recording pen, and by the way, most of this stuff you can find right on Amazon. This is a recording pen. Let me see here, where's your camera? So as you can see, the little lens right there, and then put it up when you want it. And as you can see here, it's a real pen. And this is very easy. You take it off, get your little SD card goes right there. I took mine out because it was charging. Okay, you charge it right there. So SD slot.
Reports. Are you aware of the 5G death tower threat to New York? It's another big topic, and I promise to go back to it. Definitely.
And then
DailyClout, our prettiest spy there ever was. Thank you, Smile More Phony. I don't know which of us that's talking about you.
Probably her. Yes. And you put your SD card right in there. Put it back on. Now with these, really quickly, you don't want to go, hey, how's it going? Are you killing koalas? That's a bad idea. You turn it on, you'll see your little link will come on, and then it's going to blink twice. I like this one because it's easy. There's a lot. You got to do all this crazy. So you see it's blinking. Now this camera's on. Make sure you take your lens cover on. And just put this where you normally put it. I will usually put them right in my shirt.
And beware if you're talking to someone with a blinking pen, right?
Well, they won't see it, so it's done blinking.
Right.
And so it's just a pen.
But we're going to follow up with a session on counter surveillance too,
Yes,
so people know when this is being done to them. All right, what are some other quick gadgets, or else we should wrap up?
Well, for Australia in particular, I wanted to bring this up. Now, this looks clunky. I'm sure most people who ever have gone out hiking know what this is. This is a trail camera. This is an actual cellular trail camera. This allows you to put this out there. Hide it. You can add additional camouflage. So you have line of sight to where something's going. Just leave it there.
God, that's a really good idea. If there's been initial violence against koalas and there's a stand of koala trees, that's a really good thing to put in line of sight so you can see what happens to the rest of the koalas and who does it.
The reason I like cellular is because this takes an SD card, but it's also going to transmit the photos to your phone.
Huh?
That way, these things get stolen all the time, but that way if someone steals it, you still have the photos. And this will last for 5-6 months.
And we should probably wrap up unless there's one more thing that you're dying to share with the audience.
Do you want to see if anyone wants to see anything?
So before we wrap up, does anyone have any final questions, urgent requests? What might that be?
Sorry. I use this if you're sitting in a vehicle and you don't want to point your phone at someone. This is a little baton. This is great for people who are not driving or in the city or anywhere else. A little baton could fit right in your back pocket, in your purse.
Is Brian in disguise now? Like he has blonde hair and doesn't have a beard. Just kidding. Hi, Barry. How are you?
I normally have an English accent, and I go by Barry. And there are 4 movies made about me, but I'm not wearing that today. And it wasn't the cool guy either. But what this does, it creates a periscope effect.
Oh, this is so nice. This is fun. We love a man with his toys. Yeah, you guys love gadgets. Go ahead.
I love gadgets. So I'll sit here and I don't drive and use this, and don't drive and shoot. Always try to pull over. But what this also does, someone's right in front of you. You don't want to be holding up the camera over your steering wheel. So just kind of periscope that up, and then you're getting everything.
And I understand you've laid under a blanket in the back seat with that periscope coming out of the blanket. Oh,
yeah, all the time. Okay. Yes, all the time. And I always bring a little blanket, a couple bungee cords. You can put that up behind you as well.
Show people, honey.
I bought this at Joann Fabrics. You don't have to go to some cool tactical store. And I take little bungee cords, I string it up between me and the back seat. And that way you could sit in the back seat and no one can see through the windshield, and just poke your little lens out and do that.
And Barry says, thank you. Very cool. Barry, we're so happy to see you. One of our favorite community members and one of our oldest friends in the community. Anything else, honey, before we wrap up?
Good pair of binoculars. Get a good camera with a lot of zoom, especially in Australia. And if your resources are limited, one of my favorite things that I still use on every good old selfie stick. A selfie stick is probably one of the best, as they say, spy devices. It's Bluetooth. So you don't want to stand out. You're in your car or you're behind a bush. Just kind of periscope that up, start taking pictures. And that's really, really, really helpful. Selfie sticks go with me. This also on your safety thing. If you think like an investigator or like a government investigator put a GPS tracker like I showed you on your car, great way to check is just put your selfie stick, put that under the car and start snapping pictures with the flash and then review them. You'll see the device.
Wow, that's amazing. What about this thing right here?
Well, this is just a kind of a cheap, optics, kind of like a telescope, where this will magnify in 80 times. What I like about this one, actually has a smaller tripod. A lot of hunters use this, but you bring this out to the field, you set it up anywhere, and you can zoom right in. And that helps a lot. If you have an automatic camera, sometimes they have trouble focusing. What I like to do if I can't focus and get the shot, but there's writing or something I want, turn on your voice recorder and record what you're seeing. I've made that mistake so many times, spending hours on a target and then saying, well, why don't I just read it to myself? Because all that matters is what's written down there. You might not have evidence, but you want the information.
All right, fantastic. Well, we should wrap up, baby.
Bring water. We're going to wrap up, but I just want to show one more. Sorry. She told me not to do this, but I really, really love this stuff. Okay, this is... If anyone can, this is a automatic motorhead. So what this allows me to do, remote control with my phone. I have this in the back of my vehicle, and my camera is zooming up and down like a robot. And I'm controlling it from my phone, so it looks like I'm just sitting there playing, Best Fiends, my new favorite game, or something like that on the phone.
All right, so we've had a tour of real investigators, real investigator toys. When we come back, for those who love the gear, a subset of this audience, he's going to play with the drone. I know a lot of you will love that, the drone, but that'll come back another time. And just to recap, this is Daily Clout. This was Brian Oshea of Striker Pierce Investigations. Thanks for being here, darling. Thanks for sharing your tips about how to be citizen investigators and how to, now you know everything you need to know about how to find out who owns the koala territory or something comparable, a similar issue, crime, toxic dump, trafficking of women and children, all kinds of things happening around us that you can document, corruption, how to look on databases, how to commandeer, Google searches that tell you what's going on, how to get into the field in different guises without being identified, how to keep a friend with you, how to be safe, how to film everything, how to document everything, and how to organize it. Yep. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. We have to let them go. I
was going to say, should we give, if people do want, do you mind if I give out my Twitter?
Go right ahead.
If you do want something more specific, or you're going to the field, you want to evaluate what you're bringing there, by all means, my Twitter account, which you'll find me on Naomi's all the time, is at Brian, Brian, Oshea, Oshea, SPI, as in Sierra Papa India. And then, of course, you'll see my colleague Tonio is on there too, Mr. Tonio. You can always reach out to him as well. Happy to help, and I'll do another video on demand.
Okay, and this has been Ask an Investigator. This is Daily Clout. Remember to subscribe, share, like, and become members of Daily Clout. We bring you this fantastic, empowering information, but we need your support to make it sustainable. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful night. And Smile More Funny says, thank you both. What lovely people you are, and what lovely people you are. Have a fantastic night. Bye-bye.